Lloyd, Albert, and Silpha traveling by carriage. They are leaving the kingdom, heading towards a dense forest. As they enter the forest, Lloyd is very curious if there will be any monsters emerging from it. Silpha, who is sitting beside Lloyd, answers that supposedly monsters will appear near the lake they are heading to. Lloyd looks very excited because he rarely leaves the kingdom like this. Additionally, he can't wait to see the power of the weapons he enchanted. Albert, who is inside the carriage cabin, comments that Silpha and Albert seem very close. Silpha thanks Albert for allowing her to accompany him and his guards. Albert feels it's only natural since Silpha is Lloyd's bodyguard and teacher. Moreover, Albert adds that Silpha will surely miss Lloyd if he leaves the palace. Silpha responds that it's only natural since she is Lloyd's teacher. However, Albert then teases Silpha, suggesting that maybe she also has special feelings for Lloyd. With a smile, Silpha seems to draw her sword a little from its sheath. Albert gets scared seeing Silpha's behavior and says that he's just kidding. There are several wolf monsters carrying swords and shields attacking them. The royal guards in armor are ready to fight the monsters. Lloyd, still sitting in the carriage, just watches. Grimm says that Lloyd actually sensed the arrival of the monsters. Lloyd acknowledges it because he used one of the kinjutsu taught by Tao, namely spectral detection. By using the breathing kinjutsu, Lloyd can sense the surrounding conditions all the time. Lloyd then watches as the royal guards fight the monsters. One of the royal guards can easily cleave shields and slash the monsters in front of him very easily. The other guards are very impressed to see that. Even the guard who did it is very impressed, wondering why his sword became so sharp. The other guards also feel the same way. They feel like cutting iron with their swords is very easy, so cutting iron shields feels like cutting paper. Lloyd is very happy to see it. He feels that the enchantment magic he did to those swords was very successful. Albert is very proud of his younger brother. Silpha confirms Albert's statement while holding her blood-stained sword and standing on a pile of defeated monsters. Lloyd feels scared seeing Silpha's true strength because he realizes that he didn't enchant her sword. As their attention was distracted, suddenly, a monster leaped to attack them. At that moment, Tao appeared and with a kick, she pushed the monster aside and defeated it. Tao said she detected the presence of the monster and came to help. Instantly, Lloyd reflexively greeted Tao, forgetting that he was now Lloyd, not Robert. Immediately, Tao looked at Lloyd suspiciously. She jumped in front of Lloyd and examined him closely. She knew that Lloyd had just used the kinjutsu breathing technique. Tao kept observing Lloyd, whose breathing technique and face were very similar to Robert's. Lloyd and Tao were very surprised when a monster was slashed behind them. It was Silpha who did it. She thanked Tao for her help earlier, but also reminded Tao not to be rude. Tao argued that she didn't do anything to Lloyd. They both glared at each other fiercely. Lloyd just looked at the two of them with fear, while Albert tried to calm them down and invited them both to continue the journey together. Upon reaching the lake's edge, the group set up tents for the night. By the lakeside, Albert talked with Tao, expressing his gratitude for her help in getting them there. Albert then introduced himself, saying he was the second prince of the Saloum Kingdom. Of course, Tao was very surprised. She had just learned that Albert was a prince of the kingdom. Tao then apologized for her earlier rudeness while admiring Albert's handsomeness. Tao looked around, searching for Lloyd's whereabouts. Lloyd hid behind a tent, thinking that the kinjutsu breathing technique for detecting presence could backfire on him. He didn't expect Tao's detection ability to be that strong. Lloyd decided to hide inside the tent until the monsters arrived. As he entered the tent, without realizing it, Lloyd bumped into Silpha, who was changing clothes because her previous attire was dirty and stained with blood. Lloyd was annoyed, wondering why Silpha was in his tent. Silpha casually replied that they were going to sleep together in that tent. Lloyd fell silent. Silpha reasoned that all the kingdom's soldiers outside the tent were only Albert's guards, so the only protector Lloyd had was Silpha. As he started to leave the tent, Lloyd said that he would actually be fine alone. Silpha didn't let Lloyd leave just like that. She pulled him back in and pinned him down with her foot. Suddenly, Tao lifted the tent flap where Lloyd was. She was surprised to see Silpha pinning Lloyd down with her foot. Feeling disturbed, Silpha threw a knife towards Tao. Silpha did that because she sensed the presence of a foolish person. Of course, Tao was angry and said that Silpha was a lewd maid. They both argued, and the royal guards were very excited to see them, especially happy to see Silpha not fully dressed. Lloyd quietly escaped from there. He felt that the current situation was more suffocating than in the palace. As Lloyd walked towards Albert, Albert said that Lloyd was a laddie killer. One of the reasons was when Albert noticed that Silpha had changed a lot since she often accompanied Lloyd. Albert argued that Silpha saw Lloyd as a man. However, Albert also advised Lloyd to be careful when dealing with women. The royal guards gathered to see Tao and Silpha arguing. They felt uncomfortable being looked at like that. The royal soldiers were quickly overwhelmed and incapacitated by Silpha and Tao. Albert continued his conversation with Lloyd, saying that women are indeed frightening. Lloyd agreed with that statement. After beating up the soldiers, Tao and Silpha finished their quarrel. Tao said she actually had an offer to renovate the temple on the hill near the lake. Silpha told Tao to leave and do her duty, but Albert came and told Tao to stay there for a while because she had a very useful detection ability. Albert suggested that Tao become a supervisor there and leave the next morning. However, suddenly a large-sized wolf-shaped monster named Bear Wolf approached them. Instantly, the monster attacked the troops. Lloyd observed them, realizing that Bear Wolf moved quickly despite its large size. Lloyd asked Grimm for his opinion on it, but Grimm fell silent. He was focused on looking at the ruins of the temple on the hill while trying to recall his memories of it. The royal troops were overwhelmed facing the monster. Luckily, Tao was able to knock down the monster with her kinjutsu, making it stumble. But the monster still managed to rise again. Now, it was Albert's turn to prepare to attack the monster. He drew his sword from its sheath and recited a magic spell. His sword reacted as if supporting Albert from behind. Albert unleashed his magic, a huge fireball. Instantly, it burned the bear wolf and made it fall. Seeing this, everyone there cheered, praising Albert's strength in defeating the bear wolf in one strike. Albert argued that the power came from his magic sword, which had been strengthened with enchantment magic by Lloyd. Lloyd felt that he had successfully enchanted Albert's sword as well. Grimm then told Lloyd that he remembered that the temple nearby was the one that sealed the demon inside. Shortly after, magical energy shimmered from the burned body of the bear wolf, and the monster could rise again. Not only that, several other monsters appeared behind it. Then, a demon emerged from the mouth of the bear wolf. He said his name was Pazuzu. He wanted to avenge humans for what they had done to him. Instantly, Pazuzu ordered all the monsters there to attack. Albert and the others tried to defend themselves and counterattack the monsters, but when they managed to injure the monsters, they regenerated quickly and returned to their original state. Albert observed the monsters and suspected that they were not the usual monsters he faced. Albert suspected that the monsters were using Pazuzu's power. From his hiding place, Lloyd asked Grimm if Pazuzu was the demon who broke the seal and came out of the temple nearby. Grimm disagreed, but he knew that Pazuzu used magic and mana to control the monsters. It was like he was controlling them like puppets. The mana channeled made the monsters think that Pazuzu was their leader or something else. Clearly, Pazuzu made the monsters obey his will. Not only that, Pazuzu could also supply his mana through that thread and make the monsters regenerate very quickly. As long as they couldn't defeat Pazuzu, it would never end. Lloyd gleamed and begged Grimm to teach him about that technique. Grimm was surprised because the other troops were now in a life-and-death situation fighting the monsters, but Lloyd remained stubborn and insisted Grimm teach him. Seeing his opponent struggling, Pazuzu tried to confront Silpha, who remained silent while protecting Lloyd, who seemed unable to do anything. Pazuzu also mocked Lloyd, who could only hide. Of course, Silpha immediately became very angry hearing that, and Tao felt a burst of a deadly aura from there. Silpha then asked Lloyd for permission to leave him for a moment. Lloyd allowed her. Silpha walked forward towards Pazuzu. Pazuzu kept confronting her. Angry, Silpha said she felt disturbed because Pazuzu emitted a disturbing smell that Lloyd had to breathe. She argued that it was better to end it. Silpha drew her sword from its sheath. She was ready to fight. Pazuzu, still inside the bear wolf's body, tried to leap and attack Silpha. Pazuzu thought his attack would succeed, but Silpha moved faster. She appeared to be back where the bear wolf was and had already cut off all 4 of Bear Wolf's legs before he could leap. Pazuzu looked very upset. He used his magic to regenerate Bear Wolf's legs. Albert and Tao noticed that when Pazuzu did that, the other monsters seemed to stop moving, and their regeneration became slower. Albert predicted that it was because Pazuzu was now focused on restoring Bear Wolf he was riding. Albert also thought that if Pazuzu could be defeated, he and his troops would have a chance to win. Albert then instructed Silpha to beat up the bear wolf ridden by Pazuzu as much as possible. Elsewhere, Grimm was still teaching Lloyd about the magic technique used by Pazuzu. He said that the magic technique was a difficult one. Pazuzu had an advantage, which was turning his magic power into a nature that suited those monsters and making them want to keep working for him. Grimm said that the first step to perform the magic was to give color to the magic, then control the shape, smell, and so on. Without Grimm realizing it, Lloyd could already make a flower with pink color, green leaves, and a pleasant smell. On the other hand, Silpha was still attacking Pazuzu with her sword. She also asked one of the soldiers to lend her his sword. The sword she borrowed was the one enchanted by Lloyd's magic. Silpha felt very happy and touched to hold the sword. Pazuzu confronted Silpha again, saying that he would attack the child protected by Silpha and mess him up. Silpha looked silent, very angry. From behind, Pazuzu attacked her. The bear wolf he was riding seemed to have successfully bitten Silpha with its mouth. Pazuzu was overjoyed, feeling he had succeeded in defeating the human by provoking her. But Pazuzu was wrong. Silpha, already inside the bear wolf's mouth, easily stabbed the roof of the bear wolf's mouth, then split the monster's body in two. Silpha then jumped out from the top. Holding two swords in her hands, she said her sword technique was called House of Langlis, Dual Blade Art, Twin Dragons Rising. Silpha continued her surprising attack. She managed to skin and cut the bear wolf's neck with her two swords. Pazuzu looked very angry. His face was now clearly visible because nothing covered it anymore. Silpha continued her attack. She stabbed her two swords directly into the demon's face. Silpha kept beating him, making Pazuzu come out of the bear wolf's body. Pazuzu looked helpless facing Silpha. Everyone who saw it was stunned with a look of fear, seeing how strong Silpha was. Silpha approached Pazuzu and pointed her sword at the helpless Pazuzu.